I'm very happy that we were able to confirm everything before the time.
Yeah,
So thank you for your attendance today. I just want to
happy, more than happy to be here.
and welcome today, everybody. Welcome to Blockchain Potential and Purpose. We're going to be having a discussion interview about rise to the top as a female entrepreneur. My name is Susan Falola. I'm CEO Creative Director of JUUBIX Limited, a SaaS application that matches and connects ideas, expertise, and investment in a marketplace. I am joined here today by Linda, who will now give a brief introduction to who she is and what company she works for.
Absolutely. And thank you, Susan, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to represent the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce as well as being on your show today. I'm president and CEO of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to work on our social mandate, which is raising awareness, facilitating adoption, and inspiring advocacy. And that's for commerce, consumers, people building careers in and around blockchain. So that's what I love, and serving the community is what really brings me joy. So it's a pleasure to be here as part of that outreach, and I look forward to our conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Linda. Let's make a start. So my first question to you, Linda, is more about your background and how you actually started your journey. So initially, let me ask you, where were you born?
That's a fun question because I was actually made in Peru in South America, but my mom had almost died with my previous two siblings who were born in Peru. And so she flew to the US shortly before I was born. So I was born in Florida, in the West Palm Beach area. And then shortly after that, I was flown back down to Peru, where I spent the first 4 years of my life getting to run through the jungles and bathe in the streams, and had a very non-traditional start to my life. So, y español es mi primera lengua.
Oh, I like that. That's a very nice compliment to there. So now I want to ask you about your mom and dad. What do your mom and dad do for a living?
Yeah, great question. Coming off of the missionary field, my dad did some kind of middle management work, and then started his own company. And for the majority of my growing up, he was doing record research, and it's paralegal work basically, where you're going into courthouses and researching the if you think about every time a piece of property is transferred, or every time a business takes a loan and they have to check, for the liens and all of that stuff. That's what my dad and the company that he built does, and they actually still do it at 83. My parents are still jointly running their organization, so it's been fun. It's how I helped pay my way through college. I was driving with my dad to courthouses when I was 14 years old, so I had a interesting aspect of my upbringing was having my hands in a lot of legal documents.
So would you say that gave you a bit more a stronger awareness of how the legal sector works?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing it hands on. You're seeing all of the machinations, all of the ways that people play with their money, and try to obfuscate their exposure. And yeah, it was just an interesting awareness to kind of grow up into, and the fun in having a puzzle and trying to sort it out, and digging to find answers in the legal documents was something that I enjoyed doing. So
fantastic. Leads me on to my other question. So who gave you the name Linda, and was there any particular reason behind the name?
Yeah, my mom actually picked it, and I'm the last of 6 kids, right? So she was kind of digging into her past, and one of her best friends in college was named Linda. And so in Spanish as well, Linda means beautiful. So it was kind of a double entendre, and she was being able to, give a nod to an old friend, and, going into a Spanish country, it just seemed like fun for them to call me a name that meant something in that language. So yeah, that's
where the name came from. Well done.
Linda, Linda.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's something I had to live with because I kind of just chuckled and like, okay, guys, it's like being harassed for being blonde or something. In Peru, it's like oh, que linda, linda. It's like, come on, guys, just give me a break. It's
Yeah,
just my name. Let me just have a name.
exactly.
But anyway, that's
Okay. So, what was it like growing up as a child, like for yourself in terms of, obviously you said that you actually wasn't born in Peru. I mean, you say you were born in Peru, correct? And then you
I was
moved to,
born in Florida,
oh, Florida, sorry.
but
But
then I
you're
was
actually from
in
over
Peru, yeah, until
there.
I
Okay.
was 4. Yeah.
So, what was like, like growing in both areas?
Well, I mean, I thought that I was, dark skinned and dark haired and, didn't really know much different because that's what all my friends were, right? And that first 4 years of my life, very much I mean, I just remember the tastes and the smells, and I've been back to Peru several times, climbed Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu, just beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful cuisine, and I actually have a number of beautiful nieces and nephews that my oldest sister and my brother both married Peruvians, so we have a very mixed ethnicity family, and it's just part of who I was. And interesting story, when my sister she got married actually in the state of Georgia, and she and her husband, who's darker skinned than you are, they went to the courthouse to register their marriage, and the probate judge looks at them and says, I don't know what book to put you in. And this is like 1981, right? And they're like, what do you mean? The book of marriage records. Like, it can't be too complicated. But no, 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 we have a Caucasian book and we have a black book. I mean, this is 1981. They were still having recording of marriages in different books. And I think they started a new book because we said this is not okay.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, that's it's kind of crazy, you have our experiences shape our perspectives, right? And I think it's just been a very interesting, I mean, just a very interesting recent time frame. As I'm sure everyone on the call here today is aware of, the rioting and just the very strong awareness of we've had these challenge points in our history where different ethnicities have been maligned, have been mistreated, have been put down inappropriately, and there needs to be a change. There needs to be a systemic change so that that's no longer even in our social consciousness, that could even be thought to be okay. And I, because of my upbringing and my parents were in Ghana first. My oldest sister is actually born in Ghana, and has the name Ama in her name, because girls and boys get a name based on the day of the week they're born, in Ghana. So that's part of the history that I grew up with. Of we're a global family. My dad boasts that he
Um,
has a kid born in every hemisphere, right?
yeah,
And so it's something that's my perspective. My look at the world is through the lens of my upbringing, and how my family has been molded over time, and how we've connected with people, right?
yeah,
And that's the I think the core focus on humanity is what has been for me and for my family and for my kids. I have twins that are 11. Raising them with that. We are people, and we love and care for people, and we're community with people. And so, have a talk about diversification, and diversifying your community, I think, is so vital, where we make sure that we're not just stuck in a rut, whether it's of economic level, or whether it's a rut of I hang out with this religious group, or I hang out with this ethnic group. It's let's diversify, right? Because then we round out right? Our perspective of life. We see things from other people's eyes, and we taste different food. We just enjoy the diversity that the world has to offer differently if we open ourselves up to. And I feel like I've gotten on a soapbox. I apologize. I
This
just
is
very,
exactly what we want. We want you to really, we want really to share your perspective. So definitely carry on, continue, please.
yeah, no, it's just, it's been a very eye-opening opportunity for me to see that there are so many people that still don't have the perspective that I think should be just a natural human perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I sat with our core team from the chamber, and I think there's three gentlemen on there that are, I mean, I don't know whether you go with African American or black or whatever. They're darker than you are.
Yeah.
They're a young man from India, a woman from South America. We have a gentleman that's of the Hmong people, which is kind of like the Jews of Asia. They're people without a country, and so we had this diversity. Sitting and absorbing what's been happening and talking from their perspective of how they have been, treated in the impact zone that they were feeling. And, one young man's looking down, seeing the rioting in the street, right? I mean, we have, just, there's a lot of pain, and there's unfortunately also a lot of manipulation of that. And that, I mean, probably of all of the things that I have found as a frustration recently, is that there has been manipulation of truly like the hearts and souls of people. And it has been pushed towards ends that are not a value add to that group. I've seen people in neighborhoods whose their stuff has been destroyed. A young African American mother with a week old baby that had a beautiful store in a downtown area, wrecked, absolutely destroyed. And she put up a picture of herself and her baby on that shattered storefront and said, "This is who you did this to." Like, how can you pretend that this is okay, that this is really representing
Mm.
anything that's good and right and bringing something positive, when you're literally destroying the livelihood of the individuals that you're saying you're seeking to support
Yeah.
the value of. That was just, it's heartbreaking. And I I
I think
know
it's so
that.
inspiring. Sorry, I just want to say that I feel that it's so inspiring that even the way you talk, it shows that it's coming from a passionate place. And it just shows you, like you said, it doesn't have to affect you, it doesn't have to affect you personally, but what you see, you obviously feel affected by. So I really appreciate your sentiments in regards to, what's happening in America at the moment, as well as obviously what's been happening around the world. So I
Yeah,
actually want to go
you
ahead.
should you should check out the LinkedIn article that I wrote. It's called "We Are So Connected."
We are so
And
connected.
yeah,
Could you
just it's
could you type
so.
that in for our attendees as well, so they can obviously have a look as well? I think that would be
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the direct link, because I mean, it's
fantastic.
that reality, like that we are intrinsically bonded, like we literally have physical connections that are not visible, that all of us have. Like when we actually get a hold of that, like, and understand it and have it impact our behavior, that's when we're going to have a world where there is love and there is, acceptance, and there is, because it's that awareness, like owning it,
Yeah,
like being truly. It's, yeah, I mean, we are so connected. Like,
of course.
I'm looking for the
Already, I want to go to the pub with you. So
I like a good stout.
yeah, I like a good beer, so we'll do fine together.
Uh,
I just want to kind of touch on what you said before we move on to the next question. In regards to blockchain, obviously, because you're obviously a big part of that, where do you think blockchain could actually, help or even support those, mitigating issues that you just discussed?
Yeah, one of the members of the chamber has a technology stack that enables digital agency. And I don't know how familiar you are with, the infrastructure of the web and how it started. And, Charlie Northrup is actually the gentleman who saw some of the first instance of the web when it was just professors sending information back and forth to each other. They were sharing research.
Yeah.
And Charlie saw that and said, that's going to be commercialized. So although his friend laughed at him, Charlie went home and wrote 10 patents that defined the e-commerce that we know today. So I actually got to sit at the lunch table with him a couple of months ago when he was being hosted for lunch with the gentleman that actually brokered the sale of that patent stack for him. And they asked him, like, hey, Charlie, did we send you that email? Did we tell you about the email we got from the winning broker? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? So they're like, yeah, he requested how much more could he bid, and he forwarded us the email that he got in response. And it simply said, whatever it takes. And it was signed Bill Gates. Okay. So Charlie's hearing this for the first time, and so you can see his face, he's kind of proud and, like, okay, wow,
That's
that's
very
special.
good. Yeah, definitely.
But then he said, my current patent stack will dwarf that one.
Okay.
Will dwarf it. And the reality is, the way the web was initially designed, it was not designed with humans in mind. It was not designed with us owning our own data that is created by our activity online. We permission ourselves into other people's spaces using a username and password. We click the little button that says accept cookies, right? So that
Yeah.
tracks our state, what
Yeah.
we're doing on the platform. And then they monetize that. And the majority of the time they monetize it not on our behalf, but on their behalf, right? That's
Yeah.
why the Facebooks and Googles of the world are insanely, wealthy, because of that very fact. What Charlie's current patent stack is, it starts with a physical form factor, which is something in the real world you can touch. It's a thick hologram that has pure random data in it. And that pure random data can be connected to a secret that you or I might choose for ourselves. And it could be the hash of a song that we love. It could be 2 words. It could be the title of a book. I mean, it could be anything. But once those 2 pieces of data are paired, it creates a multi-key that is 2 to the 512th times 2 to the 512th pairs of public-private keys.
Okay.
So to give scope on that, that's more atoms than there are in the physical known universe. More atoms than there are. So you want to talk about quantum proof? It'll take 40 years for the current quantum computers to hack just one public-private key pair. Okay, so you take that level of security.
Yeah.
It's personally, I own, it's mine, right? Nobody else knows it. Nobody else controls that multi-key. And then that can provision me into multiple ecospheres, even simultaneously. When I say ecospheres, I'm talking about, just like a website has subdomains, I can have my .gov, my .edu, my .vet, my .social media. And what is provisioned into each of those different ecospheres is not the purview of any other ecosphere. And I am personally jointly connected with those entities, and that data is managed by my multi-key, right?
Yeah.
So it's my data. I own it. I control it. And I don't have the government oversight into my social media, or my friends on social media knowing, what I've done at the vet, right? So those types of divisions of the aspects of our life that should be divided and should be private and personal to us, that's what this technology stack enables. It's a whole new way of doing life. And the digital agent, and this is what makes it like even more mind-blowing, is actually a new form of AI. And there's already 500,000 lines of code that define this new AI, but it can learn nouns, verbs, and modifiers, right? So I can say, exit this application, or I can say, exit this application in 5 minutes, or after X happens. So
Yeah.
it's a function, right? So that's a sentence. If I can
Hmm.
teach the agent a sentence, I can teach it 1,000 sentences that are executed sequentially. That is the automation of processes, right? And that it literally is the forming of a new infrastructure of data. And it's, I believe, going to usher in the fourth industrial revolution in a way that is empowering human beings. So the reason I told this whole story was to get to the answer to your question is how do I think this technology can help, right? And it's
Yeah.
empowering humans, and it's empowering humans regardless of where they are, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender. You know,
Hmm.
it's a democratic opportunity that we're working on the standards to help make sure that as it rolls out, it comes out in a way that stays human centric and isn't taken to be the locus of control for any specific entity or government.
Exactly.
So yeah,
I
that's
have many sentiments on that. Obviously, JUUBIX is very similar. I mean, I would say in a totally different way about, obviously I'm not from a tech background. I've obviously entered into the tech sector. I'm actually from a finance background, but what I saw was a lack of financial opportunities for, everybody diverse, a diverse community. So obviously having, an application or a platform where people can actually access opportunities, have access to potential networks that they can create more opportunities is where I, started forming JUUBIX. So JUUBIX is actually two words. It's actually your jukebox and your Rubik's cube. So if you
okay.
imagine jukeboxing in Florida, would be you
Mm-hmm.
put a coin in, get a selection of records. But with JUUBIX, you actually get a selection of stakeholders, but they're
Mm-hmm.
unbiased in every way because you cannot see a profiling of the person. So, like you said about having unlocked and locked data, you wouldn't be actually able to see who I am. You would just see the sector that I represent. So that
Mm-hmm.
eliminates all bias in terms of the connection. But
Mm-hmm.
also, when I connect with Linda, if Linda has 1,000 connections and I only have 100, automatically when I connect with you, I have 1,100
Oh
because
wow.
our network has now, in sync together.
So
So now,
you've brought my ecosystem into your ecosphere.
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
literally. So it holds a lot more value than just having, on Instagram, people have 20K followers, 5 million followers. But when you ask them what value do they bring to, your business or your service, they can't tell you. So that's kind of where I felt that there needed to be something in place to actually mitigate that and actually make networks have much more value for
Mm-hmm.
participants. So
Oh,
definitely we'll talk
that's
about that.
fantastic.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
that
we
follow up.
absolutely need to.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'd love to see the integration points we can have with the blockchain ecosystem.io platform, because it's a multimedia platform that's designed to support the community showcasing itself to each other. And it's interesting that you're kind of taking away the discriminatory potential, right? By
exactly.
removing the personally identifying details. It would be interesting to see if there was a touch point where people could go from the ecosystem to JUUBIX and have that experience, but also be able to, if they choose, share with each other who they are, on another platform that is also open to the community and isn't taking and monetizing people's data without their awareness. And I mean, we're validating human beings, and we're confirming, through a phone number, et cetera. But we don't have, I, as the CEO of the organization, I don't have access to those phone numbers. Like, we've
Yeah,
third party removed it so that there's no chance that we can be taking advantage of the community by, taking and selling that data set.
yeah,
That's really important to us. And this is kind of a transition as we go into this this new way of doing digital agency, right? I mean, the ecospheres that are going to be built, we're just starting to be able to shape the conceptualization even of what that's going to look like.
yeah.
So it's going to be fun. It's going
I
to be a lot of
can't
fun.
wait. Just like to say thank you to Vivian for her comments, one of our attendees. I would like to go on to our next question. So the next question is, what inspired you to choose a career in STEM?
Well, interestingly, I started teaching science.
Okay.
So that was my insertion point. I actually taught for 13 years, and both private and public settings. I'm Reg Ed, special ed, and gifted certified, K through 12. I have taught just about every subject in every grade, as well as learning and evaluation and reading in the content area at the college level. So I education is in my blood, right? And I actually stopped teaching to do 3.5 years of caretaking. And prior to that, my husband and I had seen Bitcoin in 2011-12 timeframe and actually purchased. So I had that experience base connecting to blockchain because Bitcoin was the first instance that the reg person could have any kind of touch point with.
Yeah.
And so I had that kind of awareness. And then the 3.5 years of caretaking, my father-in-law had Lewy bodies dementia. My mother-in-law still has MS. My father-in-law did pass away, but I can tell you there was like probably an entire year at a time that went by that I didn't even check to see what was happening with Bitcoin or even have an awareness of the growth of the ecosystem, Litecoin, and then the
Yeah.
different the
Yes.
different instances of blockchain that were beginning to be developed around that time frame. It was really as I started my own healing process, following that 3.5 years, it was really intense. That I was just started to wake up and go, okay, what do I want to do? Like, I don't have to go back to work, as a teacher. I love education. I what is it that is really, what should I do? And it was that question, that I could choose. Like, and Bitcoin was part of that, because when we got into Bitcoin, it was under $100. And, as you know, we went into 2017, it was almost $20,000. So the opportunity that opened up for me to just be able to choose to do what I loved, I had to decide what that focus point would be, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of got answered for me a little bit when I attended the very first event that the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce held, and that was January of 2018. And so I go to their first meeting. They've just incorporated as a for-benefit organization out of Delaware. That was December of 2017. And I'm at the first event, and one of the questions they asked was, raise your hand if you've owned Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies for a month. Everybody almost raises their hand, 2 months, 3 months, they get to, 1 year, 3 years, and there's like almost no hands still up. But they get to 5 years, I'm the only person that still had my hand up.
Yeah.
And that was my first, right? But I didn't know I was an early adopter. I had no clue that what I had done, seeing a Bitcoin faucet, I think, on my parents' computer and going, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And then starting to research it. I didn't know that was putting me in a position that a very, 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 very tiny group of people was in, which was actually owning and holding Bitcoin from 2012 forward. So that was, it obviously put me on the radar of the founding team there at the chamber, and they asked me if I'd be on a panel and then participate in a debate around smart. It was regulations versus no regulations. So I'm sure you can imagine the Bitcoin maximalist side of things is no regulations. I debated on the side of smart regulations because I think for actual mass adoption to occur, there has to be a regulatory infrastructure that's clear. And
I
unfortunately, we
agree.
still don't have that. We're working toward it. Some states are more ahead of others. Some countries are more ahead of others. But yeah, that was the progression. I was asked to be CIO, and just really enjoyed it. Kind of grew with the chamber. I was the ideator of the blockchain ecosystem.io platform and have just worked, over this past year. We've really, rounded out the features of it. We have some, like crazy cool stuff like a Q&A, and should be finalized in the next 2 weeks, where you can post your question but then people can answer with like a 30-second video. So
Oh,
we
okay.
can have, yeah, we can have the community showcasing themselves, visually, letting people get to know them,
Hmm.
and be out there as a thought leader and just connecting, in a very community building sort of way. So that's an aspect of it where we're going to have, right now we have like a voice call feature, where you can connect with one of the experienced contributors on the site for 6 minutes for free. But then if you want to, talk with them more, it's a paid function. But we're going to have it so it's actually a video function
Yeah.
that you can say you're a corporation and you're wanting to, tap into one of the best experts in the world around XYZ. You can schedule an hour, and that video conference can be to 50 people on your team, globally. Like you can pull in people from around the world that you want to have exposure to this new content, and it's built into the platform to provision that, and so that the expert also gets paid. And there's not like a question mark of, are they going to send me the check or not. It's like it's built into the functionality of the platform. So yeah, there's stuff we're
Must be
really,
wondering why I'm smiling like a Cheshire cat.
yeah.
Because there's so many synergies between your platform and our platform. I mean, we
Awesome.
actually want to hold a liquidity within the application as well. So after
Mm,
we've built the critical mass, which is obviously the members that sign on to JUUBIX, we want to actually have a STO raise, which
mm,
will actually be held as a hedge fund inside the
mm,
application. So every time you connect, you don't just connect with potential collaborators, you connect with investment value as well. So both
mm,
sides have to outweigh the other. So if your collaborative value supersedes your investment value, you have to bring your collaborative value down so that you can obviously have access to the investment available. So when I say investment, it could be institutional investment, it could be grant funding. So Innovate UK could be in there. It could be government funding in terms of accessibility. So if you obviously have a disabled person connect to your network, automatically person's salary plus what the government would give you as a company would already be calculated
mm,
within the value that you've connected with. So if you can imagine, you connect 14 people that have got the various expertise, then you connect 14 people that have the investment that they can offer to the project or the business. Now both sides are incentivized because now they can actually see a fiscal a representation of their participation. So yeah,
mm.
there's definitely
Yeah,
some.
no, absolutely. Yeah, when you get emerging tech and innovation, and you have people that see the value of collaboration,
Yeah.
our platform is built to serve the community as a whole. You don't have to be a member of the chamber to be on the ecosystem. Like
Okay.
it's there. Anybody can join freely. I'll put up the
That's what
invite
I was
link
gonna
for
say.
that as well. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll definitely do that. But
I'll move on to our next question.
uh,
So our next question is: have you received any racism or prejudice during your career, and if so, how did you deal with
yeah, couple of aspects. Being blonde. I know that's not often seen as an aspect of potential quote racism, um, but there's stereotypes around blondes. So being a dumb blonde,
it?
you have that stereotype, but then juxtapose it to being the smartest person in the class, and then you're a nerd. So I was stuck between the dumb blonde and the nerd stereotypes,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
How did it feel? How did it really make you feel as you were stepping up the ladder?
um, like it didn't matter what other people thought. It mattered what I chose to do with the skill sets and connections that I had. And so it's not about like not caring what people think, because obviously when people say things that are hurtful, or I had a gentleman at an event that I went to, and he had his booth babes. I don't know if you're familiar with that term,
No.
but like two good looking chicks that
Oh,
are
okay.
manning the booth, and he's the CEO decision maker, and he's sitting over on his phone, and having his little deal making, session. And, I didn't, and not to malign the women at all. I wanted to talk to the decision maker. Right. And so, I'm standing there, and he gave a very cursory, something to me. And then just kept, doing his thing. And I said, I'm just going to stand here until you stop marginalizing me. That I'd like to speak to you.
So
you
you feel
know?
that your confidence was able to, counteract against.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could have just felt ignored and belittled and like not worthy of his attention. And instead I chose to call out his attention, and he ended up sending me an email and, being very like, accommodating and helpful. And, it was just very interesting. He's like, I'm doing $1 million deal here. I was like, well, you don't know if there's $1 billion deal standing in front of you right now.
That's right.
I mean, so I think as a woman, um, as any ethnicity that might feel like there's a possibility that the person they're dealing with is looking down on them for some reason, we have to step into our own confidence and our own knowledge of the value that we have, and that we truly are as human beings. I think as women, we're uniquely suited in so many ways that men aren't, to manage different aspects of business and collaboration. And we have a nurturing side to us that is just built differently. And that it's okay to be different. I think is the first thing we have to tell ourselves. And then what are the strengths and the value adds of my difference that I can stand on and step into the power that gives me. And that's in any business relationships, that's in social engagements. It's just choosing to step into the power that you have, and not letting the stuff that people might say or the actions that they might have that could be belittling or interpreted as belittling to stop us from being proactive and engaging in the way that we know is best for our future. So I don't know if that answered your question sufficiently, but
Definitely. I'm sorry about the noise once again, my
no
attendees.
worries.
I don't know if you can hear me, but let me quickly put the question in. So it actually leads on to the second question. So, do you believe that things have got better or worse in regards to inclusion of both genders in the workplace?
Um, I would say they have gotten better. One of the things I've seen most recently with this, everybody working from home, it allows women's work to stand on its own feet, and not have to be connected to appearances or big boobs, or whatever might be what was connected to it in the face-to-face office setting. um, I think that's been a very uniquely interesting aspect of this lockdown time frame, and what people have been seeing, in how work has progressed forward. I think we've had women that have been able to showcase their work in a way differently than has been possible, when everything's been face to face in the workplace, and how you dress and how you look, and whose office you're closest to, and is the boss male or female, or that kind of stuff has played such a role. I think this working from home has just been a bit of a leveler in a very positive way for women, because your work has to speak for itself. And it's yeah, I think it's been good. I think it's going to be, we're going to see more and more. I'm seeing men who are leaders, saying, you know what, I know I need more women in my organization. The women that we have are powerhouses, and we're doing ourselves a disservice to not be intentional to bring in more women. But unfortunately, right now, mainly in the tech arena, we still have a very limited number of talented and experienced women in tech.
I agree.
And so we have to facilitate that change, so that we're grooming our girls and encouraging their engagement, but also recognizing we may always be a minority as a gender in the tech space, but I think some of the women that are standing up and being counted are doing it in spades, and that's a beautiful thing. And we can point to strong leaders, women in the tech space now in a way that wasn't previously possible. So yeah, I think it's better, and I think it will continue to get better.
Our next question is, what have been your highlights? And what have been your highlights whilst working in technology?
My highlights. Um, I have to acknowledge the rise in value of Bitcoin has been a highlight. I can't lie. um, I think my biggest highlight though is seeing members of the chamber that have had ideas and built tech and IP, and see them coming into their own. I call it emerging enterprise, right? It's a startup that is now getting the attention of the IBMs and the Nasdaqs of the world, and coming into its own and being seen for the value that it brings. And yeah, we had last month a focus on supply chain, and that was that was really a wonderful opportunity. We did have a panel with IBM and Nasdaq and DFM Data Corp, which is a member of the chamber, and just to see the validation that they were getting, was beautiful. I mean, I felt like a proud mom almost. I mean, I know it's kind of silly to say, but it's like, yes.
Yes, because you
Yeah,
saw
the
them grow from baby, and actually learning how to crawl, learn how to talk, and now obviously learning, being able to walk. So definitely, it would be quite rewarding, to say the least.
yeah, no,
Um,
it has been.
so our last but not least question before we go into our interactive session with our attendees is, how do you think we can support more women in STEM positions going forward?
Yeah, invite them to speak at events. If you have anything that you are a decision maker in, find a way to be sure that at least 50% of the panel or the team or whatever is female. I mean, we can help make that possible. And we had a fintech event where everyone on the panel was a woman, and fintech is traditionally male dominated, and that's something that we just made as a conscious choice to say, okay, we're just going to highlight some women in this sector. um, it's an opportunity we can, and I know there's been times in the past where women, as they've broken through the glass ceiling, have stomped on the hands of the women on the ladder behind them, because they feel threatened.
Yeah,
I think we need to let go of that feeling of being threatened by other females, and say, you know what, collaboratively together, we can make a greater change than any one of us could make individually. So why don't we recognize it can be a bigger pie? And Bridget, I'm sure her. She's there out of the UK, and has the bigger pie group. It's a collaborative feel. It's a we're in this together, so let's support each other's growth. Let's provide insights and information and opportunities to each other, so
yeah,
that collectively we can showcase better to the community what women are doing, and the value add that they bring. So yeah, I think we collectively as women have the power to really support and uplift each other effectively if we choose to take that.
definitely. Well, thank you so much for your insights today. I'd like to open the floor to our attendees. If you would like to ask a question to Linda, so if you'd like to ask a question, you could just send us a quick message. Any questions?
I do have an event at 11. While someone's choosing to write a question or not. Yavin, who is actually out of the UK as well, is going to be part of the panel. Well, not panel. He's actually going to be presenting rather extensively around the scams and the challenge points of the blockchain industry, and how to protect yourself and be sure you're doing your due diligence effectively.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a rollout of I think some very interesting talking points around a current functioning, blockchain implementation that has showcased the check marks of a quality project.
Yeah.
So it's I can put the link in as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone just asked, sorry, when
Yeah,
is this?
yeah, it's on my LinkedIn account. If
So I just like to let you know that Viv is actually in the STEM sector, so that's
Oh,
another lady
brilliant,
that is you know coming up the steps. So
wonderful. Yeah,
definitely
if
inspired somebody else today.
awesome. I'm very, very happy to hear that. And if you just go to my LinkedIn site, that top link to the article, should take you there. And the event is one of my last comments. I'm not
Interesting.
I'm not sure which link to share, because I'm afraid that like my link signing up for the event is the one I'm pulling up. I don't know if that's the
No, no
appropriate
worries. What I'll do, I'll
means.
get it off you via WhatsApp or via LinkedIn, and then I'll send it
Okay,
through to Vivian so that she can have a look at
perfect,
that.
perfect. That
Oh,
works.
wait, there's somebody who said you have been blessed with a rich background. Okay, you have a little comment here, Linda. That's a
Yeah,
rich
your
background.
perspective is so unique as a
Yeah,
young
yeah.
girl. Yeah.
So I think that's a question slash compliment.
Yeah, thank you,
Is there any tips for
Vivian.
being motivated and keeping inferior complex at bay in a male-dominated space? Is there any last sentiments before you leave?
Any tips for keeping motivated and keeping the inferiority complex at bay? Um,
That's a good topic title.
yes, I would say own your power. You have to own your power. You're not inferior, right?
Yeah,
So you
love
you
that.
you are the only one that can allow yourself to feel inferior. Nobody can make you feel inferior. And I think when you recognize that, inferiority complexes, like it's literally us beating ourselves up, right?
Yeah.
So I think a little self-love, a little appreciation for the talents and skill sets that you have. And when you know your weaknesses and you can acknowledge them, they're no longer shameful, right? Like shame only comes when we try to hide our weaknesses. So being honest with ourselves and then stepping into our strengths and not letting anybody make us feel inferior because we are walking in our own power. I think that's how we individually can kind of break that inferiority complex, because it's inside of us. It's not
Mhm.
something that anyone else can put on us. So I mean, keeping motivated. I have twins; they're 11, and I'm motivated every day to help turn emerging technologies toward the best possible outcome for humanity, and away from the potential dystopian uses of it. Right. So that's what motivates me is how can I create an implementation, support innovation, push forward change that is going to make a better world for my kids. And recognizing that we're not doing this. Sorry, I just realized
Okay.
that this is very meaningful to me.
Wow, I
Um,
love that. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
yeah, we're not doing this for money or fame or any of the traditional things that push people. Greed is not in the picture. It has to be in
Mm,
order for us to be successful as human beings and not allow the powers of greed and the past infrastructure that's been built because of it. The only way for that to not succeed and for us as humans to connect and collaborate and have a better future is for us with the right intentions to put our energy and our passion and our capabilities to work to really bring people together like that. I mean, technology, I look at code and I'm like, it's blind, right?
Yeah.
It's blind. It doesn't matter our ethnicity, our religion, it's blind.
Same with
So
science.
let's use that, right? Let's use that power to bring us as humanity together. And that's what drives me. That's what motivates me. That's the only thing required for evil to triumph is that good men and women do nothing.
Yeah.
And so do your something, whatever that is. All of us have different somethings to do, but you have to do your something, and you have to do it with passion and purpose and connect with people that have the right heart bent, that have the I call it the heartbeat of the chamber when I talk about it, because it's that feeling that I want to have in every president of every chapter internationally. Like, you have to know that when you connect with the chamber, you're going to be connecting with people that are platform and token agnostic, but that are also inclusive of the community, regardless of all of the external things that could separate us. The chamber is built to be inclusive, and I believe, it is one of the most naturally diverse organizations I've ever participated with. And Vivian said she's crying too. The passion.
I'm the host. I can't cry, okay?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Well, thank you
It's
so much, Linda. I would just like to obviously appreciate you for your time today. And to be honest, we had an inspirational talk last week, but you have just like hit the bar, set the bar again. So I really think that you are amazing, and I think you should continue, with your inspiration for other women. And I really appreciate all your insights today. So really appreciate that. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you, Susan.
So
It's been a pleasure.
good luck with your project, and also we will definitely reconvene and follow up in regards
Yeah,
to the synergies between both projects. So thank you.
absolutely look forward to that.
And
And you guys yeah. I'm very, very happy to just feel so connected. And
Yeah,
I hope you enjoy the article that kind of, shares some of my
please.
thoughts around that. And if you can connect at 11 for our event, I think it's going to be fun and informative. And
So it's
um,
11, what time, sorry?
I'm
So
sorry,
you're,
Eastern Standard. So it literally is starting in 7 minutes.
okay, okay.
So you'll see like the same background. I'm going to try not to cry on that one.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. And
Pleasure.
take care, and hopefully we'll see you at 11 again.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Susan.
Take care now. Bye.